right, let's go. Team Development Workshop Part 1, Leadership and Structure. So we've broken team development this month's theme down into 2 workshops. And to be honest, every part of this could be a whole month on its own. The leadership side of it definitely could be and probably will be its own month. Structure, definitely, its majority of what we're going to talk about today is the structure. Next week, we're going to work on the coach development program, but even that can and probably will end up being its own month because it's such a massive subject. The point I'm getting at is your team, the core of what makes your box, your business special, is so important. You know, at the end of the day, these are the people with the most client-facing hours. These are the people who, no matter how good your programming or your equipment or your systems or your culture or any of that stuff is, this is who delivers it. So if these people aren't switched on, if they aren't given the support and the structure that they need, everything else is for naught. You can have the best marketing, the best sales systems in the world, signing up members left and right. But if your team isn't shit hot, then it's all for naught. One of the big problems that we have and why this is such a neglected area for most boxers is because most teams are pretty good naturally. Just the love of fitness, the love of CrossFit, the kind of A-type personalities, self-driven. Most teams, if you were to compare a normal coach at a normal box to, you know, a normal worker at any XYZ job, they're above and beyond. You know, they're exceptional performers. So the kind of problem is without doing a whole bunch, our team is actually pretty good, but pretty good isn't good enough. That's the enemy of excellence. So a lot of the time, that pretty good side of things, let me let Luke in here, our team being good enough makes us a little bit complacent. So we don't feel the need as much to poke our fingers in and get involved and create some more systems and structures. The other thing that we need to acknowledge right from the get-go is, and I'm sure you guys all will relate to this, is it's tricky, the dynamic between box owner and the coaching team. It's tricky because there's a friendship there. It's not the normal kind of, you know, boss and subordinate relationship. So managing and leading these people can be a little bit tricky if you don't have the right structure there, because, you know, these people are your friends and all of a sudden you've got to go and rouse on them for doing the wrong thing or try and correct this, correct that. It's a very sensitive and touchy subject that a lot of box owners struggle with. I'd say this is the number one thing, specifically leadership and structure, that box owners around the world struggle with. So that's why we're going to dive into it today. Super important one. So let's get into it. What we're going to cover, let me just move my box here. All right, what we're going to cover today, becoming the leader your team needs. Again, leadership, I think, as a soft skill, is the biggest gap for box owners around the world right now. And it makes sense why. It's not easy. You know, leadership is not something that people are just naturally born with. It's not something that's easily taught. It's something that's learned over a long period of time through hard lessons, a lot of mistakes. And even then, a lot of people don't, you know, end up with the right outcome. It takes a lot of introspection and humbleness to get to that point of being a solid leader. So I'm not going to try and teach you guys the skill of leadership today. That's something that takes a lot more than just a 1-hour workshop. But we are going to look at some strategies that'll give you a bit of routine and structure to help you become a better leader. Then we're going to talk about effective team communication. Comms is the core. So let me just mute this real quick. Communication is the core of leadership. If we can't communicate effectively with our team, whether it's practical or more of the soft side of communication, the subtext of what we're trying to say, what we're trying to get across, everything's going to fall apart. This is where you have people misinterpret things. This is where you assume that someone knows something that they don't. It all goes downhill really quickly. So we're going to look at some nice, easy strategies for team communication. Then we're going to go through the essential team or coaching systems. Really simple systems. Well, let me get back over here. There we go. We're going to look at a system for building and maintaining coaching standards. Super important. That's the first system that we should look at in general, but specifically with our team. Running monthly coach assessments, something we all know we should do, but the where do we start problem makes it difficult. And then how we create consistency in everyday coaching, regardless of who's coaching, their experience, what class they're teaching. Every class has that consistency, and consistency is key. Now, before we get into the leadership side of things, this is going to be a two-way conversation. There's going to be a lot of call and response. So I want you guys getting involved. If you've got questions as we're going through, type them in the chat. At the end of every chapter, I guess you'd say, I'll have a look at the chat. So if you want, you can jump in and ask a question through video, or if you've asked it through chat, I'll address it. If there's no questions, then I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask for questions. And we don't want that awkward silence. So have questions ready to roll. I know that I'm not perfect at explaining this stuff, so you guys are definitely going to have questions. So please jump in. I want this to be a two-way conversation. No one needs to hear me chat for an hour on end by myself. All right, becoming the leader your team needs. First step, and if you saw my recent 5-question Friday, I kind of went over this very, very quickly, but we're going to go in a bit more depth. First step in our little hack course of leadership is building a routine. Yeah, it's the same as fitness. You want to get fitter, don't just every morning see how you feel, and if the urge to become a better person, to change your life, change your body comes over you, you're going to go work out. No, you're going to set a routine. No matter what happens, no matter how I feel, no matter where my headspace is, I'm going to work out at this time on this day. No ifs, no buts. It's the same thing with leadership. It's a new skill. And just like anything, if you want to turn it into a habit, if you want to turn it into part of who you are organically, you need to build a routine around it. Now, a lot of this stuff we're going to expand on a little bit later. So if I skip over anything here, it's probably because we're going to cover it in depth later on. So I like to use my calendar for all routine building. One of the things we struggle with as gym owners is we don't have a boss. Yeah, we don't have someone looking over our shoulder saying, why wasn't this done? Do this today. So I like to use my calendar as my boss. I get to work, whatever my calendar says, that's what I'm doing that day. Helps me build a perfect week, helps me keep a routine. So we're going to look at it from a calendar point of view. Monthly, we're going to do coach catch-ups. We're going to do sit-downs, coffee catch-ups, whatever you want to call it. We're going to have FaceTime with our coach. One of the biggest issues is we confuse kind of ships passing in the night kind of interaction with our coaches. I see my coach every day. Yeah, but seeing them and actually talking to them, and more importantly, listening to them, that's two very different things. Just because you see them every day doesn't mean that you're connected, doesn't mean that you know what they need. And you can't be a good leader unless you've got at least that basic information, that North Star to help them with. So once a month, without fail, you're having coffee anyway. Just have coffee with your coaches, one-on-one, sit down and do a lot more listening than talking. Nothing should ever sneak up on you as a leader. I hear boxers all the time say, oh, my coach just out of nowhere, my coach just chucked the shits and quit. Well, it shouldn't have been out of nowhere. As a good leader, you shouldn't be waiting for them to tell you. You should be actively asking. You should be reaching out and saying, what's going on? Yeah, how can I help you? What do you need? And how is the leader, how is the boss, how can I help you with that? The two questions that we talk about, and Jeff, we were talking about this this week, is kind of big picture questions. What would you like to be to the business, and what would you like the business to be to you? That's the two directions of this relationship. Once you've got that, then you can expand on it. Now you've got the tools, or at least the direction, to help them as a leader. Second is weekly team briefs. We're going to talk about this with the weekly coaches brief, but we can expand on this just by once a week doing a video that goes out to all the coaches, whether it's in a group chat or whether it's in a private Facebook group, or however you communicate with your team in an effective and non-intrusive way. Just what's going on at the gym. The weekly coaches brief is good. It gives them the kind of minimal required information to coach, but the gym and their job, it's not just about the coaching. There's a whole other aspect to it, the off the floor side. So what's going on with that? What do they need to know? What are you working on this week? What are they working on this week? How can you help each other? Again, this is just about scheduling communication, not hoping that you bump into each other and can have a chat. Build a routine, schedule it into your calendar. One of the most important things, and I wish I could remember who taught me this a long, long time. I think I was 17, maybe. I wish I could remember who taught me so I could credit them. But finish every interaction, whether it's a face-to-face or whether it's they message you or you message them or whatever it is, every interaction, finish with, is there anything I can do for you? And this might seem like overkill, but even if you're connecting with them multiple times in the same day, still finish with, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Open that door. Don't assume that if they want something, if they need help, that they will ask. Never assume that, right? Again, you're the boss. Even though you've got a friendship there, there's still that hierarchical relationship. They might be uncomfortable to talk to you. Not all of us are as approachable as we like to think we are. I know I've certainly had issues with that. So open that door every single time. And even if they don't need something, they know that you're there if they do. They know you've got their back and you support them. So finish every single conversation with, is there anything I can do for you? If you take nothing else away from this workshop other than that, you'll be on a winning streak. That's a big, big deal. And then lastly, this kind of goes without saying, but it's amazing how quickly people can forget it. Being a leader is a position of service, not power. You're not there to lord over people. And I know this sounds like, yeah, obviously we're not dickheads. We're not bad people who are going to sit there and yell and scream and point until you are, right? We all will have leadership days or incidences that we're not proud of. Usually you're tired, you're stressed, especially if there's financial pressure on the gym, or if you're having troubles at home with relationships. It's very, very easy to snap into that because I said so, because I'm the boss type mentality. It's never that. You know that you're leading well if it, I don't want to say sucks, but it's more work, right? It shouldn't be easier. It's not delegating and you know, getting everyone else to do your dirty work for you. It's about service. It's about doing what they need to facilitating your team to be better. So it's a position of service, not power. Never, never, never forget that. All right, next one. Again, if you've heard any of my videos, this is an obvious one, but it's crazy how quickly we can switch it off. And in the moment, in the heat, especially when there's a mistake made, we can forget. Take ultimate responsibility for everything, absolutely everything. Anything that happens within the four walls of your gym, you either cause it to happen or you allow it to happen, right? Just because you weren't directly involved in it doesn't mean that you're not still culpable for it happening, right? If it happened because of something you didn't do, that's just as bad as something you did do. Real simple rule. Anything negative that happens in the gym is your fault. Even if someone else does it, it's ultimately on you. Anything good that happens in the gym is your team's fault, right? We don't get praise. It's lonely at the top. That's just how it is. Okay. You cause it to happen or you allow it to happen, take responsibility. And every time, once you've had a second to calm down, give it 24 hours, especially if it's something that is, you know, kind of emotional and heated, ask yourself, what could I have done to change it? What could I have done to change the outcome? Again, even if you feel like it wasn't your fault and it was completely out of your hands, still the after action report is going to be, all right, what can I do to make sure this never happens again? Because especially with negative things that have an emotion attached to them, it's so easy to, once you've kind of overcome it or you've fixed it or moved through those emotions, you want to let go of them as fast as possible. You just want to get on with life. You've got to pause before you do that and just take 1 second to go, all right, let's look at what we can do to make sure this fucking never happens again. Because, you know, mistakes happen, but they should never happen twice. Yeah. So how can I make sure this never happens again? What could I have done to change that outcome? And let's write a system. Let's put it in place. Let's train the team. Let's make sure this never happens again. Cool. And then lastly, commit to being a better leader. All right. Again, this is a skill and an incredibly difficult skill to master. Being a leader it takes a lot of practice, and there is no way to completely, you know, cheat it and hack it and, you know, have any shortcut. But you can at least commit to it. So, number one, read books. There's no shortage of leadership books out there. There's definitely too many leadership books out there. Most of them are nonsense. Business books in general, but especially leadership books are, yeah, the majority of them are a waste of time. My 3 recommendations, my go-to: Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. You do have to kind of pick and choose and pull a little bit, especially if you don't have a military background. For some of the lessons, you've got to kind of have a flexible mind to apply them, but it is a great book. Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek is a classic. And then the new 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. If you want a really quick read, that has some really solid general advice, but also very specific strategies. 1 Minute Manager is amazing. Jeff, I know you read that or listened to that this week. Real quick, how long did that take you to read, man?
I listened to it on Audible, and I usually listen at like 1.5 speed, and it was like an hour and a half.
Beautiful.
So, and I listened to it like almost twice, and I'm going to listen to it again. So.
Beautiful, man. I love it. Yeah. All of Ken Blanchard's books, I can't recommend enough. The two big ones, New 1 Minute Manager and Raving Fans. When we talk about retention, we'll be talking a lot about Raving Fans, but they're all tiny books, which I love because they get to the point. Business books have a tendency to waffle and to never really get to the point, or they try and sell you on their bigger program or some nonsense. Ken Blanchard, really good. Second, ask for feedback. All right, this is one of the hardest things to do, and it's a good canary in the mine to let you know what your true relationship with your team is. None of us are perfect leaders. We're all making mistakes. We're all making lots of mistakes, especially if we're taking risks. So if you ask your team for honest feedback and all you get is positive stuff with maybe the token kind of mediocre suggestion in there, it probably means that you're not quite as approachable as you thought. I'll be honest, I'm not really interested in the positive feedback. It's the negative. It's the what am I doing as a leader that makes you guys shake your head, that makes your life more difficult, that stops you from being as good a coach as you possibly can be. We've all had shitty bosses, shitty leaders in our lives. We know how horrible that can be. And we know that at any point, if they were to ask us for feedback, we would have a list ready to rattle off. Give your team that option. How you handle it the first time will dictate how well this goes in the future. What I've seen is the first time you ask this, you'll get a mild response usually. Any answers that are harsh, that kind of hurt your feelings, they're the ones you want. Say thank you, because that took a lot of balls for your team to give you those answers. And they're the ones that will have the most value. So, the more it hurts, the more you have to look them in the eye, shake their hand and say thank you, as much as that sucks. But yeah, ask for feedback. The first time you do this, they don't know how you're going to take it. So don't be surprised if you don't get quite as honest feedback as you'd like. If you take that feedback well and then change your behavior based on that, the second, third, fourth, fifth time, they will be so much better. Once your team sees that you're not just asking as part of a bullshit thing because some guy in Australia told you to, once they see that you are actually going to take action based on what they said, your response the next time will be so much better. But yeah, ask for feedback and be ready for it to hurt your feelings. That's a good thing. Lastly, find a mentor. We've all got someone that we look up to that we know is a leader. They ideally find someone who's not in the fitness industry at all. Find someone who's applying their leadership skills in a completely other part of the world, because they'll have so much more to teach you, and they won't have the same frame of reference to make the same assumptions that we have in the fitness industry. So find a mentor and just say, look, if I can just buy you coffee, buy you lunch once a month, just sit down, pick your brain, talk through some of the stuff I'm going through with my team, that would be a huge, huge deal. So yeah, find a mentor. But the overall message, commit to being a better leader. It's not going to happen naturally. It might maybe happen, slowly over time if you let it. But if you really want to be the leader your team needs now, you have to commit to it. All right. Amy said, what do you need from me as a question I always like to ask coaches? Absolutely. I would just take that wording and slightly reframe it. What do you need from me? There can kind of be, it's the wrong direction. Yeah, it's what, I don't know how to explain it, but it's asking them to kind of demand something of you, as opposed to the service point of view is, what can I do for you? Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. I hope I articulated that properly. This coffee hasn't fully kicked in, but I love that you're asking that. Solid work, Amy. Keep killing it. Alrighty. Any questions?
Ask a question?
Yeah, please. Perfect timing, brother. Jump in.
So just to kind of be clear on, what is your definition of leadership or great leadership? Like, what would you say is like, this is what I'm shooting for?
Yeah. I like
So
a very
through all the
practical.
actions that you kind of gave us, you get what I'm saying? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like a very practical definition of leadership, which is someone who facilitates their team to be the best they can be at whatever it is, whether it's, the hard skills of being a coach, or, it empowers them to be a leader in their own right. Basically, we can say leadership is, there's three ways to lead: by example, by example, by example. We could have that little image of the guy pulling with everybody as opposed to whipping and pushing them, leader versus boss. I think they're all a bit too abstract. I think from a practical point of view, a good leader who is someone who allows everyone on their team to fulfill their maximum potential. It's as simple as that. Like, I am here to give you whatever you need to be the best you can. That's it. And that's, I think, why people struggle with leadership, is because they confuse it for this nonsense. I'm going to stand up on a box and I'm going to inspire and I'm going to be the general at wartime. And yes, let's go. You get that looks cool, but from a practical point of view, it doesn't help anyone do their job better. So yeah, my practical definition is someone who facilitates their team to maximize their potential, to do their job the best they possibly can. Yeah, great question, man. All right. Kevin asked, my coaches just hit 3 hours a week after doing their day jobs, still sit down every month. Yeah, you've got to kind of work in and respect your coaches' lives. Again, we might have one or two full-time staff members, but the majority of our coaches are going to be part-time, permanent part-time. So you've got to work with the reality of the situation. But if you can still sit down with them once a month, I guarantee that at least once a month, they're going out for coffee, you're going out for coffee. If you can just link those up, make the effort. If either you or the coach needs to shuffle around your schedule to make it work, it's going to be you. You need to show them, yeah, no worries. I'll move this. I'll meet you wherever you can meet. I'll accommodate you. And if it's a coffee that works, awesome. If it's a beer after work that works for them, awesome. Whatever it is, show them that you're there to support them. But yeah, the monthly thing, that's ideal, but you do have to work with the reality. Awesome question, Kevin. Nice, man. All right. Any other questions before we move on? Awesome. Let's do it. All right. Next one, effective team communication. So important. So important. The amount of times that I've been at a box and there's been the owner is telling me that they're having these massive problems with a specific coach. And so I listen to that, and then I go and sit down with the coach privately and I talk to them, and he's telling me a completely different story about the problems that he's having with the owner. And the two different sides to the same story is because there's been no communication and a shit ton of assumption. Whenever we leave a void of communication, we have to fill it with something, and we don't fill it with positive, happy-go-lucky thoughts. We fill it with the worst case scenario. I like to call them shower thoughts. When you're sitting there motionless in the shower going, he's probably saying this, and then I'd say this, and then, oh, he'd probably come back with it. It turns into something so much bigger than what it is. And the amount of times that I've taken the coach and the owner and sat down and gone, hey, look, this is what he thinks is going on. This is what he thinks is going on. And they've both laughed and gone, what? No, that's not it at all. It was just a misunderstanding because they didn't communicate. The reasons we don't communicate is, number one, assumption. We assume they know what we're thinking. We assume that they read that email that went out. We assume that they've remembered that thing that we taught them when we onboarded them as a coach 5 years ago. And assumptions are so incredibly dangerous. Or the more common one is uncomfortable conversations. People just don't like uncomfortable conversations. We don't want to sit down with our coach and say, hey, dude, you can't coach in a sweaty t-shirt after you've worked out. You fucking smell, and people are getting upset. Or I've had to have, speaking of smells, I've had to have chats with coaches about bad breath. That's an uncomfortable conversation. Every time we run away, we turn away from these uncomfortable conversations. We're doing our team a disservice. We're doing our members a disservice. We're doing our gym and ourselves a disservice. Get comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. It's one of the best skill sets you can have. So effective team communication. Communication is the real work of leadership, you betcha. All right, so we're going to break our communication again to try and make it easy to schedule in and build a routine around. We're going to break it down to monthly comms, weekly comms, and daily comms. Again, if you've got any questions, throw them in the chat there or pop a hand up and we'll answer them at the end of this. All right, monthly comms. We start with a monthly video brief. Simple as hell. Just grab your phone, point it at your face and say, hey guys, this is what we've got going on this month in the gym, right? Big picture, little picture stuff, everything. We do this for a bunch of reasons. Number one, it's so much faster than shooting out an email to the team. Number two, as you'll see as we go on, we always try and communicate through audio or video because you can't lose the subtext, right? You hear and see everything. You feel what was meant to be felt, right? When we send a message, especially with the dynamic between the owner and the coach, either way, it's so easy to misinterpret what that text message says or that email says, right? There's no subtext to text, right? That's the problem. When we send a voice message, they can hear what we're saying. They can hear, maybe they just left the lights on last night at the gym. If we text them and say, hey man, you left the lights on last night, please remember to turn them off before you leave. They can interpret that any way they want. Hey man, you left the lights on last night. Like whatever mood they wake up in, that's how they're going to read it. If I send a video or audio, all of that's gone. They receive it the way that I intended it. Also, with this Monday video brief, we all know we should be doing more video content, getting comfortable in front of the camera. This is a great way to do it because it's just on your phone. It's super easy to do. And the audience doesn't care whether it's good, whether it's clunky, whether you stumble over your words. They're just your coaches. They know you very well. So this is really good practice for other video content. So at the start of every month or at the end of every month for the next month, we do a monthly video brief. It'll take you 5 minutes. There is zero reason not to do this. Next, we've already talked about it, the monthly coaches meeting or catch up. Oh, sorry, I've put these two together. Monthly coaches meeting. Yeah, big asterisk here. This is only if you can. If you've got to do it through Zoom, awesome. Like I said, it's hard to get the whole team together, but if we can, we want to get them all together at the same time, see what's going on, make sure everyone's on the same page. To be honest, between the monthly video brief and the coaches coffee and catch up, if you can't do the monthly coaches meeting face-to-face or via Zoom, it's not the end of the world, but you do need those other two to make sure you've still got that monthly contact. Cool. So that's our monthly. Weekly comms. Really simple. One thing, weekly coaches brief. We're going to go over it later, but it's a nice, simple document that's going to be printed. It's a hard document. We'll talk about why later. And it's going to have everything they need to know for that week ready to go, whether you're there, whether you're not, no matter who's coaching, it's all on that doc. We're going to dive deeper into that at the end of this call. And then daily comms. Like I said, we want to either communicate through audio message or video message. Now, obviously with daily comms, audio messages is easier. You don't have to worry about the video as much. I highly recommend using a completely separate app for your audio messages. Reason is, if you're using WhatsApp or you're using Facebook Messenger or whatever to message your coaches, then that audio notification, that ding could be anything, right? That ding could be a friend saying, hey, have you seen this new episode of so-and-so? Or it could be something as serious as their boss, you reaching out saying, hey, I need this. Can you get back to me? It mixes business with pleasure too much. When we have a separate app, then as soon as they hear, Voxer, I think, has kind of a little, a rising bell, a little type app, a sound rather. If they hear that noise, that can only be one thing, right? That's a business message, and chances are it's probably important. Yeah, they also know that it's going to be an audio message, so they need to put their headphones on to listen to it if they're in a public space, whatever. But having a separate app for your voice messages, for your daily comms with your team, super, super, super important. Can't recommend it enough. I like Voxer, but I know there's a ton of apps out there now as well. Voxer's always been good. And then lastly, we've spoken about it, but what can I do for you? I can't emphasize that enough. So that's our monthly, weekly, and daily comms. Any questions, thoughts, or experiences? I want to know what you guys have experienced, or if you've got any tips or tricks to jump in as well for communication with teams. Anyone got anything?
I have tried to use a kind of project management software called ClickUp before to start to get everyone, but previously we never used that. So what's the best way to get your team on board with actually using that? Whereas we always used to just use group text messages to communicate everything.
Great point.
So it's really like,
yeah. So how do we get our team invested in, you know, hey guys, can you download another app to do another thing? Yeah, it can feel like a pain in the ass. We do it the same way that we convince our team to do anything, which is we approach it from their end, right? We never want to, again, this is the leader versus boss kind of paradigm. The boss will say, I need you to do this because I need an app that will make me sound better, that will, you know, me. This is why I need this, or this is why the business needs this. Look at it from the other end, right? Approach it from, why do they need this? You know, hey guys, I know you've got 1 million notifications coming through on all of your other comms apps. I want to make things really simple for you so that you know when a business message comes through, so that you know what to ignore, what to have a look at. Also, I want to make sure that you guys get the information that you need in the most realistic way possible. So we're going to use voice messages. You don't have to reply with a voice message. Voxer is both text and voice, which I love. Weirdly, I like sending voice messages. I don't like receiving them as much. I prefer to receive text. But yeah, so approach it from their point of view. This is why this will make your job easier. This is how this change will service you. Does that make sense? Because yeah, it is a pain in the ass to give people more apps and more things. But if we can justify it enough, yeah, you're good to go. Happy days. Also, you know, lean on the truth that everyone knows. If it's WhatsApp or if it's Messenger or whatever, just say, look, I know that Facebook is a dumpster fire, you know, or I know that a lot of you guys are trying to get away from Facebook and we're using that, or I know your WhatsApp is constantly at you all the time. And so you probably want to every now and then turn off notifications, but you don't want to miss important work stuff. So you don't want to turn that off. I've got a solution for you guys. Again, this is all what you want, what you need, your pains, and how this is going to be a solution to that as well. Yeah. Does that help? That make sense? Happy days. Nice. All right, Luke's got a comment. Had some issues in the past with a coach being very dismissive whenever I gave negative feedback. Found it hard to manage as they were always saying, sorry, won't happen again. Any tips to deal with this? Yes, absolutely. When we go through the monthly coach assessments, you'll see that there's structure built into that to make sure it doesn't happen again. If it does happen again, they're going to see it on paper, highlighted, big red pen. You can't avoid it. Attitude problems are tricky. I'll always take attitude over aptitude. I can teach anyone to become a coach if they have the right attitude. That's definitely my focus with my team. But and if I can't fix their attitude, again, ultimate responsibility, I have to look at, okay, either A, there's a very small chance that this coach is a true piece of shit, but almost certainly not, because most people aren't. And my experience has been coaches especially are great people, some of the best. So either he's a piece of shit, probably not, or I just haven't found the right way to lead them yet. So taking ultimate responsibility for that. But you know, most of the time, if it's a passing comment, again, especially with the informal relationships that we have with most of our team, it can be easy for them to fob it off and to say, you know, whatever, yeah, man, it won't happen. Sorry, it won't happen again. Like sorry is such an easy thing, such a throwaway. Sitting down with them and them seeing it on paper, that's not as easy. And then next month, they're going to see it again and again and again. And when it comes time, you know, there are situations where we have discipline processes for our coaches. There are situations where we dismiss coaches. And that would absolutely be a reason. You know, someone who just refuses to improve, refuses to take direction, I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to try and exclude the option that it's my fault. If I've tried everything possible, then yeah. So we'll talk about that soon. Awesome question. But yes, sorry, won't happen again. Can't stand it. All righty. Building structure with systems. Let's get into the meat and gravy of this one. Now, We're going to focus on 3 documents. All these documents are in the event as PDFs to download. If you've got them in front of you, awesome. If not, they're all just text documents, so it's all pretty self-explanatory as we go through it. But these, I would say, if you had to start with any 3 systems, these would be the 3. Yes, I love sales systems, I love retention systems, I love cleaning systems, but at the end of the day, coaching is what we do. That is our product. And these are the 3 very simple systems that will improve your coaching the most in the shortest amount of time. So let's jump into those. Why are you going backwards? Hey, sorry, we've jumped way ahead there. Back on up, Tiger. Alrighty. Firstly, why systems? You guys have heard me ad nauseum talk about systems. Systems equal consistency. Consistency equals value. I want you to think of your perfect day at the gym, right? Where you have those days where everything just works. You're on fire. The coach is on fire. The culture, the vibe in the gym is perfect. Everything was just shit hot. You signed up a bunch of members. You stopped members from leaving. I want to make that day every day. And there's no reason it can't be. We just work out what makes it great and then systematize it. Yeah. Systems don't remove the humanity from your coaching. They guarantee it, right? We're not going to turn our coaches into robots. We're just going to set up a framework to make sure that they have the tools to do everything that the members need them to do every day without fail, rain, hail, or shine. Second, your coaches want routine and structure. One of the biggest things that holds owners back from making their team better, from giving them this feedback that they need, especially at the monthly coach assessment, is they're worried, they're scared of criticizing their team. They're scared of sitting down and going, this needs to be better, that needs to be better, you can improve here, you can improve there. Your coaches want that. If you've got a coach that's half worth their salt, they want to be better. I do this all the time at seminars. We always have coaches at seminars as well as box owners. I say, hey, coaches, hands up, who here wants feedback? Who here wants to be not just assessed, but assessed with a fine-tooth comb, right? You want every part of you as a coach picked through so that you can be better. Every seminar I've done that at, 100% of coaches have put their hand up, right? Think about yourself as a coach back in the day. Would you have wanted the head coach, the senior coach, the owner to come up and go, hey man, here's some structure on how we're going to do things. Here's a few ways that you can do the things you're doing better. Of course we would, right? We all want to be better. Your coaches want to be better, regardless of how scared you are of giving them that feedback. And then lastly, your team's going to treat the business as professionally or unprofessionally as you treat it. If you treat the coaching side of things as fly by the night, don't get bummed when your coaches do the same. Yeah. If you treat it professionally, if you create a framework and some structure, then it's reasonable to expect them to do it as well. All right. First one we're going to jump into, nice, easy one, but so important, is the coaching standards document. All right. So this is really simple. If you haven't got it in front of you, all it is basically just a bunch of statements that begin as a professional coach, I will, and then we go through each of those statements. Cool. We'll go through a few of them in a second. First thing to know, when you build this, involve your team in the process. Yeah, involve them in everything you possibly can. Right, transparency everywhere possible. It's a lot easier for them to accept standards, not rules, standards, if they were involved. It's a lot harder for them to not follow these standards when they know they had a hand in creating them. Now, what you can do is definitely draft up the standards that you like beforehand, and then when you meet with your team, direct the conversation so that that's where it ends up, right? I'm not just going to let my team completely run haywire. That's unfair on them. It's not their responsibility. Even if you write up the standards and then send them to your team and have them give feedback on it, that's great. That's enough involvement. As long as they've got some say in it, you'll have a lot better buy-in if they're involved in it. Second, these are standards, not rules. Coaches are a unique group of people, right? They're square peg, round hole. They've chosen a very unique career option. They don't react well to rules, I've found. When you say you have to do this because I said, it doesn't go so well. But they understand standards. That's our language. We're all on the same page when we're talking standards, and they also understand, rules. Yeah, rules have got some wiggle room. Standards don't have wiggle room. your chin was either above the bar or it wasn't. You locked out or you didn't. There's no gray area there, right? So that's why I like to talk about these as standards, not rules. When we write the standards, we start with an undeniable statement. All right. So we don't start with what we want them to do. All right. When we write this, I usually write the longer form part, the practical stuff I want them to do first, and then I work out an undeniable statement to put above that. Right. The reason we do this is if I can get them to read the statement at the top, they can't argue with it. Right. Everyone and any coach who's a decent person, which they all are, will read that and go, yeah, sure, of course, right? How are you going to argue with respecting members' journey, respecting their time, holding the standard, keeping relationships professional, leading by example, being grateful, always being better? These are really powerful statements that you can't argue with, but they're also useless statements by themselves. If that's all we put out, and that's what most people put out with mission statements and standards, they're pretty useless. So we need to give it some meat. All right. Once we've got the coaches' heads nodding, then we can define it. So respect their time. Yep. Everyone's on the same page. Then I can build it out with, I'll be ready 15 minutes before every class and available 15 minutes after. I'll start and finish every class on time. I won't waste time gossiping, over-explaining, or on self-indulgent conversation. I will give them the best 60 minutes of their day. So that's got some very kind of clear guidelines in there, right? That could have been a list of rules very easily, but we've created it as a standard. We've started with an undeniable statement, so they're already bought in. If I just said, hey guys, I need you to be ready 15 minutes before class, available 15 minutes after, no gossiping, no, you're not going to get a great reaction to that. So we give them the undeniable statement first, and then fill it out with the action points. When we do this, we print out 2 copies for every coach. At the end, there's a section for them to sign it and for you to sign it. The owner, the general manager, head coach, whoever's going to be running this. You do 2 copies, they take a copy, and you keep a copy on file. All right. This is honestly just a bit of theatrics, having them sign a second copy for you. The copy for them is for reference. The copy for you is so that they understand, all right, yeah, I kind of can't argue with it now. They've got a copy that I signed on my file. Obviously, I have to follow the rules. Cool. Does that make sense? Quickly, any questions or thoughts or your own experiences with coaching standards, guys? All good all around? Beautiful. If you've got any questions before I move on, pop them in the chat. I'll answer them after the next section. Alrighty. Next one, monthly coach assessments. This is one of my favorite. If you do this properly, monthly coach assessments should be fun, right? It genuinely, if you've done a few of them, it's whether you're being assessed or whether you're the assessor, it's hey man, heads up, I'm going to be doing the monthly coach assessment on today's class. Oh, awesome. All right, sweet. I'll bring my A game, right? If you do this properly and it's a positive experience, everyone looks forward to it, you and the coach, or the other way around. So all we've done with the monthly coach assessment is we've just broken coaching down into four main elements. Now, this is just a guideline. Change these, whatever you think the 4 main elements of coaching is, go ahead and change those. But the point is, we've defined 4 different elements. We've given examples of each of those elements. They've got a rating from 1 to 5 for each of those elements. And then most importantly, we've got points of improvement at the bottom, right? We'll go through that document in a sec. I can't stress this enough. Every coach, every month, including you, no exceptions, right? Not just including you, especially you, right? You've got to lead from the front. You've got to show these coaches that none of us are too good for this, right? None of us are above being assessed. Because especially if you get a coach that's been around for a bit, they start thinking they're shit hot and they go, dude, I've been coaching for 4 years. I'm basically an OG, which I love. Why do I need to get assessed? Well, everyone gets assessed. Even I've been doing this 20 years and I got assessed every month, where no one is above it. We all get assessed. All right. So the 4 sections we're going to go through are operations, communication, technical and movement, and member experience. A mistake I see people make when they do this kind of stuff is they just do technical and movement, right? They're just looking at the CrossFit or whatever fitness modality you do, that side of it, right? There's so much more to the member experience, right? So we break it down. Operations, just the normal stuff. And if you've got the document, you'll see, but on the second page, we've got examples of what we're looking for. So with operations, are they following the systems? Are they starting class on time, finishing on time? Have they built a lesson plan if they're a relatively new coach and that's part of what they need to be doing? Did they turn the lights on? You know, is the music on? Are the bathrooms clean? Is the equipment wet? All this simple stuff that's like, yeah, obviously, not obviously. Yeah, we have to be on this stuff every single time. And if they know they're getting assessed on it, it'll just become part of their habit. Then communication. Again, communication is the core aspect of leadership. Your coaches, don't forget, are leaders, right? They're probably the most important leaders because they're leading the most people, right? You're only leading 4, 5, 6 coaches. They're the ones who are leading 100 members, right? So they have to be able to communicate as well as everyone else. Are they projecting? Can everyone hear them clearly? Do they remember everybody's name, right? We can't be charging the premium that we charge and have coaches calling people buddy, guy, pal, right? That's one of my pet peeves. Are they under queuing, over queuing the movements? Are they communicating the intent of the class as well as the actual movements and the workout itself? Then we go on to technical, dealing with injuries. Are they using the right progressions, right? All of this stuff, you get that. The technical and movement stuff, that's the easiest stuff. Lastly, member experience. Was there a good vibe? It's hard to measure the vibe on the vibometer, but was there a good vibe in the class? Did they bring a good energy? Again, was the music selection appropriate for the people in that class? Were they professional? Did they have connection, contact with every person who walked in and out of that class? And lastly, and most importantly, did every member walk out of that class sweating and smiling? So we watch them do a class. We go through this. At the end of the class, make sure that they don't have a class after this. I want this to be nice and fresh. As soon as that class is over, we pull them aside, we sit down with them privately, and we go through what we found, the good, the bad, the ugly. And most importantly, we come up with, at the bottom here, points of improvement, all right? Whenever it comes to points of improvement, I always ask them first. So based on what we've just covered, what do you think you can do to improve the next month coach assessment? All right, let them come up with the answer first. If they can't work it out, if they're struggling, then you jump in and go, what if we tried this? What if we started with that? Here's an idea you could do. Let's you and I work on this movement or this progression or whatever. But try and let them come up with the ideas first. Try and empower them. Again, this is the facilitation part of being a good leader. And you're there to back them up if they can't. So once we've done that, they sign it at the bottom, you sign it at the bottom, it goes on their file. Next month, when you do their coach assessment, you'll have a fresh sheet, and you'll have last month's sheet. So now I'm looking at the points of improvement from last month and seeing if they've actually fixed those things this month, right? That's the most powerful. If you just do a fresh monthly coach assessment every month, but there's no, okay, have they improved from last month? It's borderline pointless. So we have last month's sheet, and then you get to give these coaches a win because they will have improved. So you get to highlight all the things on last month's sheet that they've improved and show them and go, dude, awesome work. Look, we're still working on these points. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're killing this, and this. We can cross those off. You've got it. Good work. That's the monthly coach assessment. Any questions? Throw a hand up or throw it in the comments. We've got a few here from Kevin. To be sure, you were saying ask your coaches to assess you. Hell yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Absolutely. Now, if you want to get better, then obviously get your best coach to assess you. But I'm absolutely okay with having a junior coach assess me, all right? Because there's a lot they can learn from seeing me coach, but also, which sounds egotistical and wanky, but it's true. But also it shows that, look, I'm not above anything, right? I'll have my new coach assess me. Maybe the assessment won't be as valuable to me, but it will be valuable to my team for them to see like, oh, wow, Ty is happy to be assessed by anyone. Like he's willing to put it on the line and take feedback not just from the best coach in the gym, but from anyone in the gym. So yes, absolutely have your coaches assess you. And none of us are so good that we don't need assessing. None of us have got this shit so tight. And if we do a coach assessment and see how that goes. Operations and technical can be fixed by the right systems. Lesson planning done by us. Yes, absolutely. Lesson planning, massive. The weekly coaches brief is going to be a massive part of how well they do in the coach assessment, which we'll talk about next. Monkey see, monkey do. Absolutely, Kevin. Nice work, brother. Amy asked, would you suggest going over the feedback straight after the class or allow them? Yeah, awesome question, Amy. As I said, straight after the class while it's fresh, because I'm going to be referring to a lot of stuff they did. That'll be, look, they're not going to consciously make mistakes. If they know it's wrong and they still do it, it's probably a subconscious thing. So I want to be able to go, now, do you remember what you did just 30 minutes ago after you got everyone to break out for the warm up? Do you notice you kind of lost interest? You lost the momentum of the class. You maybe didn't see this member doing X, Y, Z. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that I would like them to be fresh for in the moment. And also, I want to reward them. I don't want them sitting on it. When you say, hey, today's monthly coach assessment, I don't really give them much more notice than that. I'm not going to tell them, hey, on the third Tuesday, you're going to be assessed. Every class should be as good as the assessment class. So I'm going to spring it on them. Look, if it turns out that they are coaching hungover or they didn't sleep well last night, then so be it. That's the members are experiencing it, so why not assess it? But yeah, the coaching high, I want them in that moment. And again, if you do this properly, this is a really fun, positive experience. One of the things I actually miss about not having a gym anymore. So yeah, great questions, guys. Awesome. Any more questions down here? No. All righty. Next one, weekly coaches brief, my favorite system. I think if you were going to implement one system in all of your gym, it would be this one, the weekly coaches brief. Again, coaching is what we do. That's the core of our service. If it was just a gym, then they can just, if it's the facility, they can just go to the Globo gym down the road, pay way less. It's the coaching that directs everything, whether it's the fitness, whether it's the community, whether it's making people feel special for an hour a day. It all comes from the coaches. So giving them the information that they need every single day, so important. Weekly coaches brief. Why? Consistency in coaching, and we spoke about it earlier. Consistency equals value. I want informed and prepared coaches. All right. You've got coaches who've been coaching for 10 years. You've got coaches who this is their first class, right? Your members are paying the same regardless of which coach is in their class. So I want to do everything I can to take the gap in not so much skill, but definitely in member experience between my 10-year coach and my 1-month coach. And I want to close that gap as much as possible. There's some things we cannot speed up, right? The coach's eye instinctively, seeing things, just the knowledge that comes with years of coaching. We can't fast forward that, but we can fast forward a lot of the other stuff, the structure of the class, and how informed and prepared our coaches are. Good example, you've got a brand new coach who turns up and they're doing the right thing. They do their wellness check before class. Hey guys, before we get started, anyone got anything broken that's going to fall off, catch fire, or explode? And one of your members puts their hand up and says, oh yeah, I've got X, Y, and Z. And your coach has never even heard of that body part before. And they go, oh, cool. All right, just take it easy. That's not acceptable, right? That's not at all acceptable for the price we're charging, for the standard we hold ourselves to. That's not acceptable. Our 10-year coach certainly wouldn't be doing that. Whereas if you've got a weekly coaches brief and your coach knows half an hour before that class that this member's going to be in the class and that they've got this specific injury and then they've got these specific restrictions that go with that injury, they can then ask the head coach or the owner, hey, what should I do with this? Or they can Google some sort of remedial movement, or they can be prepared, informed and prepared. The other thing is I want my classes to be smooth, right? We've all had those classes, and hopefully as experienced coaches, it's every class where you teach and it's like a song. It's got a rhythm to it. It just goes like clockwork. That's a lot easier to do when our coaches have the information that allow them to go through. You've got a coach, they're teaching their first class and they ask, wellness check. Anyone got any injuries? Anything I need to know about? John, I know you've got the neck. We're just going to change this movement to this. Don't stress. Jenny, I know you've got your thing. We're going to take it easy on this part. All good. Damien, let me know how your knee feels during the run. I think it should be good, but let me know. Anyone got anything else? Nice, smooth, prepared, makes you look professional. And as a new coach, that class immediately builds trust. They immediately go, oh shit, okay, this guy knows. I've never seen him before, but he knows what he's talking about. He's on fire. He might not be the technical coach that our head coach is, but the class is smooth. So let's have a quick look at the elements of our weekly coaches brief. It's broken down into 2 sections. These are printed out. Before anyone says it, oh, we've got, Wodify or whatever, we've got member notes. I get that. I want a bulletproof, guaranteed, no way, no how will this system be forgotten. And I found that Wodify, digital stuff, anything digital, it's easy to slip through the cracks. It's easy to just become part of the process and for them to not actually see it. And there's no accountability built into it. Whereas with this, it's printed, it's in a folder, in a binder that's near the front of, near where they're going to coach from, but private, because there is going to be private information in here. Before the class, 5 minutes before, the coach goes up, checks it out, goes through every section in the first page. First page is before class. So we're going to go through the head coach's intent. Sure, they can see the workout on the board, but what is the point of the workout? We can all interpret the same workout in completely different ways. And if that coach has all of a sudden gotten, their thing right now is just, attack every workout, like it's a grinder, like you're trying to just punish yourself, but that wasn't your point. They don't know that. So we have to have intent. What is the point of this workout? What's the intent? If you can communicate it to the coach can communicate it to the members have a more consistent experience, everyone gets the same results. Your programming actually matters now. Next one is injury management. Like I said, who is it? What's their injury? What are the restrictions? Yeah, we try and give as much information. Our coaches are coaches, they're not physiotherapists. Just because you understand that injury and you off the top of your head know how to scale it, how to switch out the movement, doesn't mean that they will know. Yeah, you've got a lot more experience than them, most likely. So give them as much information as they can. Also, we can't just rely on wellness checks. Wellness checks are great, they're essential, but there's, if I say, anyone got any injuries, anything I need to know about, we've all had that one, 50-something-year-old tradie who hasn't had an emotion since 1982, who's got a bung knee and isn't going to say anything, right? He's just going to, I'm fine, right? We can't rely on their feedback. Or you might have a member who's recently found out that she's pregnant, and you guys all have experienced it. We find out that our members are pregnant quite often before their family even finds out, because for safety, they tell us pretty early on in the pregnancy. She's not going to put her hand up and just blurt that out when she hasn't even told her mum, right? But we need to know. So if she's pulled another coach aside and told them, and they've put it in here, because we can manually enter stuff as the week goes by as well, then I know, and I can say, cool, so you've got this, Jenny, you're good, I've got you covered, and we can just move on nice and subtle. Next one is member notes. Some things we need to know, they're not necessarily going to be an injury or something big. It could be John is running a marathon this weekend, but he's a very quiet, timid guy. He's running a marathon this weekend, so he's just going to go through the movements this week, right? He's not trying to smash himself, but he's a very quiet guy. So if I see him just going through the movements, and especially a young coach who wants to jump on his back for sandbagging the workout, he might just go, oh, okay, sorry, push too hard, can't run the marathon. So just little things like that. Also, not all of our members are great all of the time, right? You've got members who are pains in the asses. Maybe you've got a member who has turned up for class so many times that you've told them if they do it again, then they're out. And so you put it on here, if they turn up again, don't let them in class. We've made that a hard line. We've had it where members have lost family members, people close to them, and they want to keep coming to class just to give them something to do, to work through it. But it's going to be a thing, and they just need a little bit of hands off, a little bit kid gloves, no, yelling at them, come on, faster, stop crying, you pussy. None of that stuff for this member or any member. But we need to know that. And again, our coaches can't be expected to know that just because there's a note on there on Modify or because we told them weeks ago. Kevin, suggest making a folder with the most common injuries, making sure we don't go onto Google Doctor. Absolutely. Yes, I'm a big fan of working with a physio and having a physio come through, even if it's once a quarter. And again, we've got to be very careful legally because of our scope of practice. We're not physios. It's a big mistake I see people make with mobility classes. It starts to stretch into therapy, which we shouldn't be doing. But yeah, having a list of common injuries, common substitutes. This is all a part of the CDP. Actually, is making sure that we understand not just the scaling for capacity, but also the scaling for specific injuries, common injuries, and even having worksheets to give to members based on common injuries that we see in the gym. And if we're seeing these common injuries, then we need to be going back to our programming and addressing those in there as well. But yeah, absolutely. Documents of common injuries and working with a physio. Spot on, Kevin. Love it, brother. All right, so that's page 1. Now, it just took me 5-10 minutes to explain it. It'll take your coaches about 10 seconds to go through it. They'll, class is going to start in 3 minutes. They'll go up, they'll open a folder. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, she's in class, he's in, got that. Awesome, done. And they're ready to go and teach the smoothest class you've ever seen. All right, one more slide, and then we're going to wrap up for questions, guys. So if you've got questions, get them ready, throw your hand up, or pop them in the chat. All right, the second page of the weekly coaches brief. This is after class. So awesome work, guys. Well done. High five. I'll see you all next week. Before I do anything else, before I start packing up anything, I go straight over to the weekly coaches brief and I wrap up the second page. Now, if I'm doing back-to-back classes, like most of us are, then that's great. I'll do the second page for this class, and then I'll quickly check page 1 for the next class. Easy as that, right? So first section, correction, sorry, not after class, end of class. So while everyone's packing up before mobility or whatever you do at the end, that's when we're going to check this. Reason is the first section is gym announcements. All right, what's going on? I've had so many owners talk about, we hold these social events, but no one comes. Okay, well, why doesn't anyone come? Our coaches don't really remind people. We put it in our Facebook group at the start of the month, but no one knows about it. End of every class, no matter what, whether you've got a social event coming up, whether you've got a new apparel drop coming out next week, whether you have a new protein powder that you're offering free tests, free tasters at the front desk, whatever it is, you've got a charity event going on. It needs to be announced every single class, right? It's an extra 20 seconds of the class. You're not taking any time away from anything important. And it puts a nice cap on the end of the class. I'm a strong believer that your class should have a definitive start and a definitive end. It's a class. I see too many classes that they materialize and then evaporate at the end, right? There is no set and we're done, right? That's not a great member experience. So having the gym announcements, what's coming up, the dates, the times, how to do it, all in there, very important. Then we've got the Attaboy cards, all right? I hate this name, by the way. I've hated this name for, well, how old am I? For 20 years this year, I've been using Attaboy cards and I freaking hate them. So if anyone's got suggestions for something besides Attaboy, I'm all ears. But basically, anyone who's done our retention stuff knows that I'm a big fan of sending postcards out to members. All right. In the world of digital everything, a postcard is an incredibly quick, cheap way to send someone a physical something that is so special to them that'll go up on their fridge. It'll almost certainly go up on Instagram or wherever they're at. It's a very powerful thing, and it shows them that we noticed them, we saw it. So it might be, your member got a first box jump ever after trying for 3 months and being scared of it. They might have done something out of the gym. They've just handed in or had graded their PhD dissertation, and that's a huge moment in their life. They had a baby. They in the gym, out of the gym, doesn't matter. If it's special and it needs to be acknowledged, we write it in here. The coach's name, the member's name, and the reason. And then at the end of each week, whoever's in charge of retention takes the weekly coach's brief and writes out those cards, sends them off. Really, really powerful, super freaking easy as well. The last part, possibly the most important part of this whole thing, because if this isn't done, then none of this system was done, is the coach acknowledgement. So at the end of every single class, not every day, every class, the coach will acknowledge that specifically by initialing below, you acknowledge that you have read and understood this brief before and after every class. There's no gray area in that language. If you sign here, that's exactly what you're saying, that you did the job. This is the accountability part of the system that every system needs. And then they just initial. So if I'm teaching 5 classes today, my initial will be in that bottom box 5 times. Yeah. This is a huge one. When you first implement this, I recommend the owner or the head coach regularly check that box during classes, right? And make sure the coaches see you. This is a bit of kind of leadership theatrics where I want them to see me walking over and going, good, right? I want them to know that the accountability is going to be held accountable, right? I'm going to be checking in on this. Otherwise, the whole system is pointless. So yeah, very, very important system. If all you did was implement one system, it could be this one, and you could do it tomorrow. It's a beautiful thing. Questions, thoughts, anything. I'll jump into here. Kevin, how to make this a little more eco-friendly? I love this is a Kevin question. Solid, dude. I'll be honest, I'm very same. I don't like paper. I just don't like having paper all around my office. I like to digitize everything. However, this is the one thing that I'd be willing to, kill 2 pages a week for, just because the practicality of it. If anyone can work out a way to present this digitally, where it gets done as much and it can be updated. One of the things I love about this is we also always make sure that these boxes for every section, we've got extra boxes, right? Especially in things like injury and member notes. So during the week, there's 8 boxes and only 3 of them are filled up, hopefully. But if an injury happens during the week or we learn about it, any coach can jump in and add that to the list. And then next week, when you write, or Friday, when you write this for next week, the head coaches, you then just write that into the actual digital document. But yeah, if there's a way that anyone can think where this will be as practical, as usable as a digital, I'm all ears. Absolutely. Great question, brother. Any other questions, guys, on the coach's brief or anything else from today's workshop? It's been fun. Hit me with it. I purposely didn't cover everything. I know that there's gaps in what I've explained. So please hit me with those questions, guys. Don't be shy. All right. What you guys are thinking? Oh yeah, please.
Question. So on the injury management portion, when it comes to how do we know when an athlete is healed, or like what's the process or procedure for that?
Great question. So the more casual way to do it, which it's not perfect, but this is how we've always done it, is they just get crossed off. So if I'm coaching and, I'm prepared before we get started, any injuries I need to know about. Sarah, I know you've got your knee thing. And she goes, oh, that's actually fully recovered now. I'm feeling okay. It's a non-factor. And I go, oh, awesome. Good work. And I just cross Sarah off the list. And then when that goes to the head coach on Friday, the head coach knows to remove Sarah from that list in the same way that I can add someone to it. So yeah, really good question. If you've got something a little bit more complicated, then you might, and depending on how aware of the litigious side you want to be, you might require a doctor's release for someone to say that that injury is not something anymore. But yeah, I keep it kind of casual. I cross them off. One thing I didn't mention, guys, because it's kind of a yucky thing to mention, but I've seen this happen a couple of times at boxes where a member has had an injury, they've not looked after that injury, or they've exacerbated the injury outside of the gym, and they've tried to kind of point the blame at the gym, saying they don't care, they did nothing. All the gym had to present to their insurance company was this document, or months worth of this document, to be able to say, look, we specifically have been managing that person's injury, and we've signed off that we've managed that person's injury. And that helped them because the insurance company wasn't going to cover them for negligence, essentially. So yeah, not a great part, but that is part of why we do that. Yeah, awesome question, man. Really quickly, guys, before we wrap up, either through video or through text, I want to know what was your number one biggest takeaway from today, or the part that you feel has helped you the most. Let me know. Jump on in. Actually, let's go through one by one. There's only a few of us in here. All right, let's Kevin, talk to me, brother. What was your biggest takeaway from today? I'm putting poor Kevin on the spot here. All right, I think we might have lost him. Jeff, talk to me. What was your biggest takeaway, brother?
I think the team comms, just the seamlessness of monthly, weekly, daily, and having a consistent, like, here's how you communicate and here's what we're communicating, to make things clear for everyone.
Solid, man. Awesome. Yes, so important, dude. So important. Thank you very much. Awesome. Amy, biggest takeaway? Oh, here we go. Weekly audio video check-in with the coaches. It's easy, quick, and gives emotion. Absolutely. Again, that emotion, that subtext, I can't express it enough. It's so freaking important. Awesome, Amy. Luke, detail and consistency with weekly coaches brief. Yeah, solid, man. Like I said, such an incredible system. And that's no pat on my back. This is a system that I've, I think stolen from when I had martial arts schools 20 odd years ago. Very, very powerful. So simple as well. And your coaches are into it. Your coaches want more information. I love it. Kevin, are you there, brother? I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway was if you can hear me. It's late. I think Kevin might have fallen asleep. I think it's close to midnight over there right now. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This has been fun.